It is the Third Down Conversation. And on today's episode, the NBA playoffs are currently on the way. So what are some intriguing first-round matchups? The NCAA NIL situation is crazy, but I have to address the Nico in Tennessee and that whole fallout. And lastly, the NFL draft. So much drama. And like always, I'm real, authentic, and I'm always in context. Let's go. The NBA playoffs. The first round is actually some really good matchups, but there are three matchups I want to bring to your attention. The first would be the Knicks versus the Pistons. Currently, the Knicks have a 2-1 lead in the series. The Pistons have played well, but the Knicks keep finding ways to win. So why is this matchup so intriguing? Well, for the Knicks, is this the year that they finally make a deep playoff run? The Machine, ESPN, big media, they would love nothing more if the Knicks can have a extended playoff run. I mean, the Knicks haven't been to the conference finals since the 1999-2000 season. Can they actually make it back to the conference finals? Unfortunately, no. This is not the year. If they get past the Detroit Pistons, and that's a big if because I like the Pistons as a team. I like the Pistons in this matchup, honestly. But if they were to beat the Pistons, then the Boston Celtics will be waiting for them. And I believe the Celtics will make quick work of the Knicks, unless Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown injuries are more serious than what they're actually saying. So this is not the year the Knicks make a run, but hey, it could be. This matchup is intriguing for the Pistons because it all centers on Cade Cunningham. Cade Cunningham is a former number 1 overall pick out of Oklahoma State. He's a 6'7" point guard who's a 3-level scorer and averages just under 10 assists a game this season. I believe he will be crowned the most improved player of this season, which tells me that Cade is already a star. Made his first All-Star appearance this year. He is a star in the league currently. If he can lead the team to a win in this series, which would be the Pistons' first series win in the playoffs since 2008, I believe he'd be on a superstar trajectory. I mean, if you think about all the young stars in the league, Ja, Zion, Cade Cunningham, and his game, the way he plays basketball, it screams future face of the league. He can start that campaign by winning this series. The next matchup is the Clippers and the Nuggets. Now, this should be a Western Conference Finals matchup. But due to injuries, both teams kind of underperformed this season. In fact, coming into the playoffs, these two teams were on two different paths. The Clippers, they entered the playoffs on an 8-game winning streak. Everything seems to be going well, and Kawhi is getting healthy at the right time. The Nuggets, on the other hand, well, they fired their head coach just as the season ended, and things appear to be unraveling just a little bit. The series is currently 2-1 Clippers. Jokic and Kawhi have both been incredible in this series, especially Kawhi. For a guy coming off an injury, you couldn't tell. It looks like he's been playing all season long, but trust me, he's missed his fair share of games. Now, why is this series intriguing? For the Clippers, maybe everything they've done for Kawhi Leonard will be worth it. Kawhi joined the Clippers in the summer of 2019. That same summer, they traded a chunk of their future to get Paul George. That appeared to be a good move because the Clippers made the Western Conference Finals for the first time in franchise history in the 2020-21 season. However, Kawhi didn't play that series because he was hurt. Following that season, the team has kind of been up and down, and Kawhi has been in and out of the lineup. So during the summer of 2024, Paul George wanted a max extension with the Clippers. The Clippers would not offer it to him. Therefore, Paul George declined his player option and entered free agency and signed with the 76ers. So it appeared that the Clippers were giving up, that they were just going to see if they could build a team solely around Kawhi Leonard and James Harden. The season started a little rocky, but again, they finished the season on an 8-game winning streak and secured the 5th seed in the Western Conference. So if they can win this series, and it's my belief that they would then play OKC the next round in the semifinals, and I believe they can beat OKC, they could return to the conference finals for the second time in franchise history. Now, why is this series intriguing for the Denver Nuggets? Well, the Nuggets would be going in reverse if they lose this series. They won the championship in the 22-23 season. They lost in the conference finals in the 23-24 season. And if they lose this year in the first round, that could signal that it's time to make some major changes. The Nuggets have essentially had the same roster for the last 3 seasons, minus some tweaks here and there. But to have a first round exit, that could mean maybe it's time to trade Michael Porter Jr. or Jamal Murray. The last matchup that I think is so intriguing is, of course, the Lakers and the Timberwolves. Currently, the Wolves are winning the series 2-1. This series has so many layers to it. Let's start with the Timberwolves. This series is intriguing for the Timberwolves because at the beginning of this season, they traded Karl Anthony Towns, who was a cornerstone type player for them and helped them get to the conference finals last season, for Julius Randle of the New York Knicks. It was reported that that move was made to shift the focus towards building a team around Ant Edwards. We all know that Ant Edwards is a future superstar in the league. I think he's close to being a superstar, especially if he can make it back to the conference finals. So if they were to lose in this first round, it could mean that maybe they should have kept Karl Anthony Towns. Maybe they made a mistake in trading him away because he was a big part. Him and Ant Edwards together were quite the duo. But management felt like, you know what, let's move Karl Anthony Towns, add Julius Randle, let's increase Naz Reid's role, Jaden McDaniels' role, and they felt that would be the best way for them to compete and make Ant Edwards the focal point. So if they lose, I think some people will start to look at their general manager with a bit of a side eye. It's intriguing for the Lakers because winning this series and then potentially playing the Warriors or Rockets, who I think the Lakers could be either one of those teams, and get into the conference finals can go a long way in getting Luka to resign this summer. As we all know, back in February, the Dallas Mavericks traded Luka to the Lakers for Anthony Davis, which still just is crazy. Can't believe that trade happened. But Luka has this current season and next season left on his contract. Ideally, the Lakers would want him to re-sign this summer so it wouldn't be a massive storyline all next season and then drag all the way out into the off season of the 25-26 season. Losing in the first round to a team that you're better than, that wouldn't be great for convincing Luka to resign long term. And the Lakers, they can't allow Luka to leave. If Luka leaves, obviously LeBron's getting older and will retire at some point. The Lakers could be right back in those post-Kobe years.
Nico's father has come out and said no, because the report was that Nico was threatening basically to enter the transfer portal or not play for Tennessee if he didn't get certain financial or NIL demands met.
Cash rules everything around me. Queen, get the money. Dollar bill, yo.
Nico Iamaleva. I'm never going to say that last name again, but what has happened down at Tennessee sent shockwaves through all of college football. Reportedly, Nico and his team came to Tennessee and wanted to raise his base salary to $4 million. Coming out of high school, Nico signed an NIL deal that would have paid him $8 million over 4 years. So he's pretty much getting $2 million per year. However, following his freshman season, they wanted to double that income. It was an odd request because Nico didn't have that great of a season. If you look at his numbers, like let's break down his numbers. Nico threw for 2,600 yards, 19 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. Completed 64% of his passes. Sounds pretty good, right? But let's take that and break it down just a little bit more, and let's see how he performed in the SEC. In league play, he had 9 touchdowns, and 4 of those came against Vandy. And okay, let's be honest, it's Vandy. He had 3 interceptions in league play. There were 3 games where he didn't throw a touchdown at all. And of the 8 league games, he eclipsed 200 yards twice. To me, those numbers does not equate to a $4 million base salary. Nico didn't lead Tennessee to the playoffs. Tennessee's defense was elite last year. They got there because of the defense. And all they needed Nico to do was just take care of the ball and manage the game. But Nico, his camp, reportedly his father, wanted more. College football saw its first reported holdout. And holdouts are something that the NFL does. When an NFL player wants more, he won't report to like training camp and stuff like that because he's holding out for a new deal. And that's what Nico did. He stopped coming to practice. He stopped talking to the coaches. He just went dark, and nobody knew what was going on. And all this happened right before their spring game. So many thought that Tennessee was going to acquiesce and give in to what Nico and his camp was demanding. However, Coach Heupel, Tennessee's head coach, comes out and says that Nico is no longer with the team. That no one is bigger than the team, that no one is bigger than the brand. Shortly after that press conference, Nico enters the transfer portal. There were, I would say, probably about 4 teams connected to Nico. UCLA, North Carolina, Oregon. And he ultimately ends up going to UCLA. And it's reported that his NIL deal with UCLA is going to pay him $1.5 million. Now, we all know that California taxes are insane. So after the taxes, it's closer to $800K. And there's no telling how much the agent gets of that $800K. It appears that Nico, he got some bad advice. He lost a ton of money. And once you lose money, it's hard to recoup it. I mean, he had $2 million guaranteed. He was going to get that. That was his current deal. He had already signed it. You go and ask for more, thinking that, yes, Tennessee's going to give in because, well, that's been the pattern. Ever since NIL has been introduced, when the player wants X, usually that player gets it from somewhere. But Nico and his camp lost the leverage when Tennessee said no. So you only end up with $800K. It is believed that Nico is going to be a good player. However, I think he jumped the gun. And had he just waited, had a better season than what he did last year, been more the reason why they win and not the reason why they lose, he probably would have got there for $1 million. What Tennessee did, I think, is the start of college institutions are not allowing the players to run the show. I do believe players should get paid, but I also feel that there should be some sort of guardrails to this whole thing. And right now, it's the Wild Wild West. I think more teams are going to be like, nah, we're not going to pay that. And players and their representation at that point are going to have to make a choice. Another interesting thing happened with Nico and his family. His younger brother transfers away from Arkansas to UCLA. Now, his brother did this after signing his NIL deal and receiving the money. Now, this has happened a couple of times prior to this year. The offensive lineman at Alabama, Caden Proctor, left Alabama after the 2024 season, transferred to Iowa, signs the NIL deal, receives the money, and then transfers back to Alabama. That's wild. But no university has ever gone after the student athlete in fear of the backlash and, people being like, well, they're just kids. In Madden's case, Madden is Nico's younger brother. Arkansas said, no, we want our money back. And they're willing to go to court and sue him to get the money back because you signed the deal, you received the money, and then you chose to leave. Well, that means the money should come back. And I'm with that. I have no problem with that at all. Honor your agreement. I paid you, honor your agreement. If you're not going to honor your agreement, give me the money back. You shouldn't be able to just take the money and leave. That's not how the real world works. And this is just another example of universities putting a stop to the wild, wild west that is NIL. And I hate that, Nico and his brother, his family at this point is being like the poster children for this. But look, it had to start somewhere. It had to start somewhere.
On the field, Shedeur Sanders is a day one or day two selection. He was the only quarterback in the entire FBS last season who, when he was not under pressure, completed at least 80% of his passes. This is a four-year starter who took two separate programs to unprecedented heights, extremely experienced, throws with great touch and accuracy, helped elevate the profile of other wide receivers beyond just Travis Hunter. It only leads me to believe that teams maybe are less comfortable with some of the stuff that comes into the intangibles department for Shedeur Sanders. And frankly, I'm not sure that's justified.
The NFL draft, Shedeur Sanders. This situation with Shedeur and the NFL, it's odd. It's so odd. I must admit that I'm starting to think this has nothing to do with talent. Shedeur has the talent to play in the league. Now, I'll be the first to admit, I didn't think he was a first-round quarterback. He doesn't have any wow traits. Oftentimes when a quarterback doesn't have a super strong arm or super athletic, those intangibles, they may slide. But to slide all the way to day 3, I'm shocked by it. You can't tell me that Jalen Milroe is a better quarterback than Shedeur Sanders. You can't tell me that Dylan Gabriel is a better quarterback than Shedeur Sanders. Tyler Shaw. I think that's how you say his last name, but you can't tell me. He's a quarterback out of Louisville, but you can't tell me that guy's a better quarterback than Shedeur Sanders. They're not better quarterbacks than him. He's clearly tough. He got sacked like 100 times playing for Colorado. He elevated that program. And yes, it was him and Travis Hunter, but that program was left for dead. Those two guys come there and it gets resurrected. So we can't say it's talent. It has to be something else. So, okay, you don't like the fact that he's cocky. He's arrogant. I can understand that. But my problem is, why can't quarterbacks be that way? Receivers are, DBs are, defensive linemen are, running backs are. Every other position can be brash, cocky, out there like that, but quarterbacks can't. Why? Why is that a negative? And I'm not race baiting when I say this. I'm just looking at the history, but it just seems like when a black quarterback behaves in the manner of Shedeur, it's a major deterrent. They do it for white quarterbacks too, but it seems to be a bit more with black quarterbacks. I'm just telling you what the history is again. So why is that? You worried about Shedeur Sanders. Okay, I can get that. We all know the personality of Deion and how a microphone in his face constantly. But he's a present parent. Why is that a deterrent? Why is that something that's a negative in this situation? Sliding to day 3 makes it appear as if his talent is just not there. Like he's just not a good quarterback, which, again, I'm not saying he's a world beater, but the quarterbacks that have been taken before him, minus Cam Ward, and Cam Ward isn't flawless, I really don't understand. I really don't understand. And there was a clip going around on Twitter of somebody prank phone calling Shedeur about getting drafted or pretending to be a GM of an NFL team. Look, that's nasty work. I like to believe this world isn't as harsh, hurtful, mean. When you see stuff like that, you can't help but wonder, like, why? You got nothing better else to do than to kick a person when they're down. What kind of person are you that you're going to prank phone call the guy and he's clearly down? He's clearly embarrassed. And Shedeur doesn't have anything to be embarrassed about. I mean, you thought you was going first round. I thought I was going to be in the NBA. It didn't work out that way. You got to keep your head up and maybe all of this is happening for a reason. If it humbles you, that's great. Being humble, in my opinion, isn't a bad thing. You can learn a lot when you go through a process that humbles you. It can teach you how to deal with adversity. It can also show you who's really in your corner, who's really got your back. So if I'm Shedeur, I wouldn't be upset. I'd be disappointed, but I wouldn't be upset. And all it would do is just make me more hungry. When my name gets called, I'm going to be happy. I'm going to be excited. And then I'm going to get to work. And I just pray and hope that Shedeur goes out and prove himself right and don't worry about proving others wrong. This has been the Third Down Conversation. I am the Turnip Seed. Jesus loves you. And I'm out. Peace.